Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. After watching David Carroll and Akwesi 100's videos where they talked about Kanye West's visit at the White House, I had to take a look at Kanye West's visit at the White House for myself before I could make my own analysis regarding his behavior. And after watching videos on Fox News and C-SPAN regarding Kanye West's embarrassing visit at the White House, I can honestly say I understand why David Carroll was disgusted and called Kanye West a coon, and I understood why Akwesi 100 was so emotional in the 1 hour and 27-minute video he made regarding Kanye West's completely embarrassing behavior at that visit at the White House. Now, as someone who has made professional presentations for the Strive East Harlem Employment Service when I was working at AmeriCorps Vista, and someone who went to go visit the vice president of my college back in 2009, I can honestly say that what we saw at that White House visit with President Trump was a complete embarrassment to the black community, and it was something that literally tarnished the image of black men, black manhood, and black masculinity, because it showed the whole world that once you give a black man an opportunity to visit a head of state, he will act like a child and not like a man. And when your Kanye West was in there acting like a 7-year-old child, hopping all over the place, talking all emotionally, and not presenting any sort of discussion in an intelligent manner, all he did was breathe brand new life into old stereotypes about black men that have been made ever since the antebellum South. So when I looked at Kanye West in that White House, he was reinforcing every white supremacist and racist idea about black men being ignorant, black men not knowing how to dress, black men not knowing how to act, black men not knowing how to conduct themselves in a social situation, and black men literally being just like a small child and needing to be treated just like a child based on their behavior. And what's really embarrassing about Kanye West was here we have a college educated black male out here, and he does not know how to conduct himself in the presence of someone like a head of state, like the President of the United States of America. Now, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump being the President of the United States, but I will respect the office of the President of the United States. And because I respect the office of the President of the United States, which is the executive branch of this United States government, I would know how to conduct myself if I were offered an opportunity to visit a president of the United States. And the way you conduct yourself when you are visiting a office of an executive branch like the President of the United States is to show that office its respect by being, one, on your best behavior, and two, presenting yourself in a way so that people can take you seriously. When I looked at Kanye West sitting in there with this, I think it was some sort of work shirt, jeans, and a cap, this is not a guy anyone could take seriously, because he showed how little respect he had for that head of state by not dressing in a way that showed that he was going to be someone who was going to present business affairs in a serious manner. Now, in contrast, when you look at Kim Kardashian, the woman who has her butt out in almost every picture of every magazine out here, when she decided to visit the President of these United States, she had so much respect for the office that she put on a conservative black dress and heels, and she came to that office looking like someone who wanted to be taken seriously. She wasn't looking like a complete clown like this Kanye West was when he came to that White House. When you look at her demeanor, when you look at her behavior, when you look at her body language, she was looking like someone who was ready to talk business. Your Kanye West wasn't ready to talk business. Instead, he was looking like someone who was getting ready to perform a minstrel show. And he did perform a minstrel show for all those people in the news media to see. And instead of them being enlightened on issues regarding the black community, all they were was entertained by this minstrel. Because when I look at his emotional display and the way he behaved, there was no way anyone could take his platform seriously because he did not know how to do certain things when you go out here and make presentations to large groups of people, especially those when you have the stage to discuss serious issues. Now, as someone who has, again, done presentations where I had to represent the Strive Job Readiness Workshop at homeless shelters and with other nonprofit service providers like churches and other organizations that served the homeless back in 2001, I know how you're supposed to present yourself when you are going out here to meet with directors of programs, executives, and senior managers, and the way you're supposed to dress and conduct yourself when you're going out here is you're supposed to have on a suit or a nice dress shirt and a tie, nice hard bottom leather shoes, and you're supposed to be well groomed. And the reason why you're going to dress like that is because you want those people who are in these organizations to understand that you value their time. And because you value their time, you are going to dress in a way that shows that you are serious about conducting business and you are someone that they need to take seriously when you are discussing issues on that platform. Because if I were to go meet the President of the United States to discuss things like men's issues or the investment in men and why we need to invest in men, I know that I'm going to respect the office of the President of the United States, and I'm going to take that meeting with the President of the United States seriously because this is not only my opportunity to represent myself, but it is also my opportunity to represent the black community and the issues of the black community in a way that this head of state can see them as something that need to be taken seriously and something that need to be constructively addressed in a way that allows the president to understand its impact not only on the local community, but the national community and the international community. And that's why I would go out of my way to go out and buy myself a brand new suit, have that suit tailored at least 2 or 3 weeks in advance, buy some brand new shoes, and make sure that they are shined and polished to perfection. And then, as I'm getting those clothes ready, I'm also going to be laying out my platform, rehearsing my platform, and discussing my platform in a way that articulates it in a professional and intelligent manner so that that head of state can know that I am someone who is not wasting their time and that I'm bringing a platform to them that will show them where how this issue needs to be addressed in a constructive manner and how the nation will benefit from addressing this issue in a constructive manner. Because when you are going to talk to power like the President of the United States, you have to be able to articulate the big picture as related to that issue, and you have to be able to articulate that issue in a way that shows the president how this can benefit not only him, but also show him how this enables him to win over large voter bases and be able to be seen as someone who can be seen as someone respectable and appreciated by those voter bases and those voter blocks. And we did not see that with your Kanye West. No, what we saw with Kanye West was a minstrel, buck dancing and bojangling, entertaining the masses while he sat there and talked about things that stimulated the emotions of black people but didn't really deal with the issues in a substantive manner. Kanye West was all flash, but he had no substance. Yes, he said the right things, but he did not present any of those issues in a way that they could be taken seriously by someone like the President of the United States. Because when you are sitting in the presence of power, it's not what you say, it is how you say it, because it's when you how you say it is going to be the way that conveys to the message to that head of state that you are someone they need to take seriously. And when you look at Kanye West, he does not present himself in a way that shows you that he needs to be taken seriously, because he showed no respect for the office of the President of the United States by coming in there with that hat on at this White House. Because when you're wearing a hat inside of a place like the White House shows how you have not been taught any manners. Him coming in there dressed casually showed that he had no understanding regarding demeanor or decorum in the presence of an executive, and him acting so emotional showed that he had no control over himself in the presence of a leader of the United States or the executive officer of the United States. I mean, I looked at Kanye West. Here we have a man in the presence of power, and he's just being so emotional. And that's not the way a man conducts himself in a business situation. Because I remember back in 2000, I had to do a presentation at this church, and the guy who was supposed to be part of outreach, he couldn't do the presentation. So I went out myself to this Catholic church, and I had to make the presentation myself. And as I was making that presentation, the first thing I did in that room was take control of that room. And how you take control of the room is you maintain eye contact with people, you articulate the points you're going to make, and you answer their questions in a constructive manner. Instead of the people controlling you, you are controlling the room, and you are controlling the room by responding to people, not reacting to them. And as I watched Kanye West in that White House, those reporters were controlling your Kanye West, and he was reacting to them and acting out instead of maintaining eye contact with each person in the room after they asked a question and then answering their question in a critical fashion. Because that was something I learned back in 2000 when I had to make that presentation on my own, and people were so impressed with the way I presented myself that we were able to form that relationship with that parish towards recruiting homeless adults into the Strive Job Readiness Program. And I also did this when I was working with the Department of Homeless Services towards increasing our resources and recruiting homeless adults as well. I also knew how to maintain eye contact. I knew how to, command a room. And I also knew how to command the room when I was interacting with professionals from the Department of Homeless Services. So I knew how to represent myself in these type of situations. And I knew how to handle myself in situations with people of power, because when I first started the SJS Direct imprint, I met with the vice president of my college, and again, I knew how to dress. I put on my Brooks Brothers shirt, put on some nice slacks and some shoes, and I went to go meet with the vice president of the college. We talked about my books, and they were also impressed with the professional way I conducted myself in those situations. And as a result, I was able to get my books presented at the college bookstore for a book signing, and that also went well because I knew how to conduct myself in the situation. Again, controlling the room and answering people's questions, maintaining eye contact with them, connecting with them, and forming relationships with them, because that's how you conduct yourself in a situation. Because you are not only representing yourself, you are also representing your business, representing your brand. And when I look at your Kanye West, he did not represent himself in a positive fashion in that visit at the White House. And because he acted like a 7-year-old, what happened was he made all black men look bad. Because you look at Kanye West and the way he behaved at that White House, and again, it breathed brand new life into old stereotypes about black men being ignorant, black men having no couth, black men not having any social decorum, black men not knowing how to conduct themselves, black men not knowing how to dress, black men not knowing how to think critically, and black men just being completely ignorant of any sort of social rules whatsoever. I mean, when I look at that video and I see a grown college educated man wearing a hat inside of the Oval Office, all I can do is facepalm, because one of the first social rules I have had drilled into me since junior high school is, and even before that by my father and my mother and my older brother, was you never wear hats in the house. And the reason why you don't wear hats in the house has to do with basic manners 101. And here you have Kanye West wearing the Make America Great Again hat inside of the White House, not understanding basic manners for a man. And then I saw a piece of footage that really disgusted me. Here you have Kanye West sitting there and putting his cell phone on the desk of the commander in chief of the White House. And when I saw that, it just made me cringe, because here you have, again, a college educated black man in the presence of the President of the United States and sitting before the President of the United States, and he's put his cell phone on the desk of the President. I mean, even when I was in the presence of the Vice President of my college, I kept my hands in my lap and I addressed the Vice President by maintaining eye contact and showing respect for their office. When he put that cell phone on the president's desk, that was like one of the most embarrassing things anyone could do in the presence of a head of state. Here you are in their office and you put a phone on the man's desk. You're not supposed to put anything on anyone's desk unless they ask it. This is something that I learned from basic job interviews, is that unless that individual asks you to hand them something, you do not put things on their desk. And that showed that your Kanye West, in spite of his college education, had absolutely no home training whatsoever. Because what we saw there when he was sitting there in the presence of the President of the United States was a completely embarrassing set of behavior for a grown college educated man. And that's where I can understand and agree with David Carroll when he sat there and talked about how this relates to these boys being raised by these single mothers. Because boys who are raised by single mothers, this is how they act. They do not, again, have much discipline, they do not have much self-control, and they don't understand the unwritten social rules of interacting with men or interacting with other males. Because when you are interacting with men, you have to, again, understand the unwritten social rules regarding conducting yourself in social situations. Because when your Kanye West was in that White House and he was in there wearing that ball cap, wearing that work shirt and those jeans, he was showing, again, how ignorant he was of social rules. He was showing how ignorant he was of social decorum. And he was showing everyone in that White House that not only do they need to not take Kanye West seriously, but they don't need to take black men seriously. Because when you give a black man like Kanye West an opportunity to go before a head of state, what they will do is prove everybody right by acting in an embarrassing way that reinforces in everybody's mind every stereotype most racists have regarding black men. And your President Trump, being someone who understands unwritten social rules, you know what? He sat there and let Kanye West self-destruct. And your Kanye West was so completely clueless, he couldn't see how President Trump was letting him self-destruct, letting him embarrass himself, because all your Kanye West was doing, he thought he was making a powerful first impression, but the only impression he was making on people all over the world was that black men were a joke, black men did not need to be taken seriously, and that black men, whenever given an opportunity, will show you that in spite of all of their education, in spite of all the opportunities given to them, will act like a savage. And that's the saddest part of Kanye West's appearance that goes over the heads of most of these Afro-American Negroes on the street. Because everybody I hear from, all they do is talk, every point of all he talked about are issues. But again, it was not about what he said, it was about how he said it. Because as a guy who has been out here publishing books for the last decade, I can honestly tell you, it's not what you say, it's how you say it that gets you taken seriously, and it's how you present that information that gets it taken seriously. Because when I would go out here, and I started out in 2009 with hand-drawn covers, a lot of people did not take my work very seriously. Some people who took the chance to read it, they said it was good based on the story. However, they did not like the presentation based on those hand-drawn covers, but those hand-drawn covers at the time were the best I could do. But as I started learning how to network with comic book artists like Bill Walko and Mike Williams and started networking with comic artists, what I did was I started raising the bar on my books. And because I raised the bar on my books in terms of quality and putting a quality cover on those books, and then listening to many of my readers who told me to work on the grammar and the spelling, I began to change my books to meet a higher professional standard. And because my books met a higher professional standard, people started taking my work a lot more seriously. And because they started taking my work more seriously, I started getting more readers and I started building a larger audience because I showed that I was serious about my work and I was serious about the way I was presenting my work to the public, because my work not only is a representation of the story I'm trying to tell, it is a representation of myself, a representation of my standards, and a representation of everything I believe in as a writer. And as a reflection of myself, I want to put my very best on the page of every book that I produced. And that's why, again, I made efforts over the last decade to continue improving my quality and learning more about spelling, punctuation, and grammar, becoming a better editor, hiring professionals to design my covers. And that was all, again, about presenting myself in a way that people would take me seriously. And what's embarrassing about Kanye West is, again, in spite of his college education, he showed that he was not someone who was about improving himself, because as he stood there and talked about things that needed to be done in the black community, he made no efforts to try to make efforts to improve himself, because any man who wanted to improve himself would show that by going out here and dressing in a way that shows that he was serious about improvement. He would be dressed in, again, in a professional suit. He'd be wearing a tie. He'd be wearing hard bottom leather shoes. And he would show the office of the President of the United States the respect it deserves by dressing in a way that shows he is serious about conducting business with the Chief Executive Officer of these United States, the man who runs this country and is the top person in the United States, by, again, showing that he not only knows how to dress, but he also knows how to present an argument in a constructive way, because the way he conducted himself at that press junket is not the way a professional conducts himself. Because your Kanye West was there to entertain, and yes, President Trump probably was very entertained by that minstrel and the way that he acted, because he proved every racist point by the way he acted. So they got entertained. They got a good laugh at him. But as it related to dealing with those issues he discussed, they were not going to take those issues seriously, because your Kanye West did not present them in a serious way. Yes, he said all the right things, but again, I will say it once again, it's how he said it that led to people laughing at him and not seeing his point as related to these issues in a serious manner. Because when you present yourself in a professional manner, those people know that you are serious about doing business, and you are serious about doing business in a professional manner that not only benefits you, but shows them that they can get some benefits as well. But we did not see that with Kanye West, because the way Kanye West conducted himself, again, was something straight out of an Amos and Andy movie, or one of these old minstrel shows. And the way he acted, again, completely embarrassing, not only for Kanye West, but also for the black community and all black men, because we all took an L when Kanye West went into that White House, acted like a complete fool, and the way he acted reflected so badly on black men. I could understand why Akwesi 100 was so emotional about it, because as a black man myself, I understood what was at stake here. Again, you have a grown, college-educated man sitting in the White House, someone who you would believe would know better than to be in here dressed like a clown, having no manners, doing things like wearing a hat inside of the White House, putting a cell phone on the desk of the President of the United States, and acting a complete fool before a press junket, and literally losing control over himself because he was never taught control by that single mother who raised him, and never taught the rules of manhood by the father who was never in his life. Because that's what I saw with Kanye West, was a man who never had any sort of, again, interaction with a father, because if he had any sort of interaction with a father like I had, or a male figure like my older brother, again, he would know how to conduct himself in the presence of a head of state, and he would present himself in a way that showed his power in front of one of the most powerful men in the world. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you could donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the Temptation of John Haynes, the John Haynes series, the Spencerella trilogy, or my new nonfiction book, which I recommend every black man read, The Man Crisis, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.